The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus went up the mountain and summoned those whom he wanted, and they came to him. He appointed 12, whom he also named apostles, that they might be with him, and he might send them forth to preach and to have authority to drive out demons. He appointed the 12, Simon, whom he named Peter, James, son of Zebedee, and John, the brother of James, whom he named Boanerges, that is, sons of thunder, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. I always love this little half gospel passage. You know, this is like the original dream team. You know, this is it. Jesus has chosen these guys, and of course, you know, like there's something already a bit amiss as I say that, right? Because I'm saying this is the dream team, but then look at the comment we get already, right? Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. And somehow we can grapple with that, probably as a side note, like that even this is drawn into the plan and purpose of God. So yeah, it's, you know, what are we doing today? You know, what are we doing today? I'm wearing white, right? This is a day, and the bishops of New Jersey have called for a day of prayer and fasting for the legal protection of all human life. And what they've changed there is they've added the fasting on. Do you know? Good for them. Good for them. Good for us. Right? Prayer and fasting. Why? Because we have to center on what? Not on the legal defense of human life. We have to center on Jesus. And we center on Jesus with prayer and fasting. And if we're centered on Jesus, then we not only desire the legal defense of human life, but we demand it. We not only desire it and demand it, we live in a way that accords with it. And we take up the cause bigger than the legal defense of human life into ourselves, which is, the defense of human life, legal and otherwise. And that's actually what we see in the gospel today. What we see in the gospel today is Jesus, I don't want to say, these words they were a little tricky, but I'm excusing myself, okay, from your judgment there, so I don't need to. Jesus is calling to himself a new Israel. He is making, both in himself and in his public ministry and in and through the 12 that he gathers to himself, a new Israel. To what? To fulfill the vocation of Israel of old. And the vocation of Israel of old is to bring God's blessing to every corner of his creation. The vocation of the Israel of old is to shine God's light, to be God's light for a darkened world, to affect the renewal of God's entire creation. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying chiefly the renewal of human hearts. They are to affect the renewal of every human heart. How do they do it? They do it by love. They do it by love. Love it is that turns an upside down world right side up. And yeah, this is it. This is what Jesus summons the 12 to. Because when he summons the 12, now we see it as the gospel progresses. The 12 share in Jesus' ministry. And they share in some way in his own life. And then after the death and resurrection and the sending of the Spirit, even more so, the Spirit indwells them. They are moved, guided, oriented, sustained, animated by Jesus Christ, their head, whose Spirit indwells them. But that's us. That's us. If Jesus had launched a basely political movement 2,000 years ago, we would know nothing about it because it would have died out by now. He didn't do that. Jesus launched the kingdom of God movement that would be animated and sustained by God's own life. And he didn't just call the 12. It's a beautiful scene. I love it. I love it. He called the 12 to be the renewed Israel. But my friends, we are the renewed Israel. That's us. Woe betide us if we don't hear and heed the call today to be a light to the nations, a true light to the nations. Here's the thing, right? Like, I can hear, and of course, it's political. Is it political season? It's always political season these days, right? It's political season ad nauseum. Like, until we're just completely nauseous with it, it's going to keep going up, because until we separate ourselves from it, that's what's going to happen. And when we realize that it's making us sick, then perhaps we'll separate ourselves from it, right? This is the nature of idolatry. So we want to break that loop anyway. But in our land, there are things that are up for debate that do not need to be up for debate. Why is this up for debate? It shouldn't be. It is because we don't have first things first. It is because the things that matter most to us are whether political alignment or identity and the rest. I'm in this group and they're in that group. And then we understand, okay, I do these things, they do those things. It's what is going on? Not for us. Not for us. These things are not up for debate for us. They're just not. There's no debate. I mean, I understand there's no debate because there's one person in here speaking. Do you know, it's not gonna. But I'm telling you, right? I'm telling you, they're not up for debate. But that's why the cause is bigger than, of course, the legal defense. But we need it. We need it. But we have to go beyond it. Because if we don't go beyond it, it's just a form of brutalism. It's just a form of oppression. We go around making people do what we want them to do, right? Now, of course, we know that this is what's best. But we're going to have to love people into that position as well. And the only way we do that is if people are convinced that we love them in the first place. And that we're not looking out for ourselves and trying to gain political power for ourselves. But can people be convinced of that today? I'm not sure. My friends might be able to be convinced of that. How about your friends? Do they know that you love them in spite of their political party affiliation? Or maybe in some, I don't know, I don't want to say because of it, because that'll drive you insane, but there is something here in this gospel that speaks to that. Judas Iscariot is one of the 12. So what are we doing setting up parties of purity and the rest? What are we doing with that? The plan and purpose of God will advance. And there will be a day when the world is rid of the scourge of abortion. There will be a day. We may have to wait till Jesus comes back, but we'll work for it until that day. If we don't, we can put ourselves in the Judas camp. And I don't mean work for it like, again, playing political games to get people to pass the laws that we want them to pass. I mean everything. I mean everything. Is life worth living? Go around and ask the world, is life worth living? There are a lot of people who'll say no. And my friends, I will say then the Christian church has failed them. Because life is worth living. And if it isn't, what is lacking? What is lacking? Love. And it's ours to love those people. And I don't know, when life is worth living, etc. Right? Things fall into place. When our lives are focused on Christ Jesus, when our lives are focused on God, everything else falls into place. No? So today, the bishops are right. Fast and pray for the legal defense of human life. At every stage. From, conception, fertilization, until natural death. And we should pray and fast for that. But we should pray and fast to be absolutely centered on Jesus. And each and every one of us today, praying and fasting for the legal defense of human life, needs to be totally focused on the fact that God entrusts to you today people whom He wants you to love. That's the task for you today. It's your task every day. You have to do it. You have to. Because that is the right side up agenda. If we don't live it, my friends, no one will. And then we can have discussions and debates and laws and whatever. We won't get anywhere. We will not get anywhere. Do not deceive yourselves. Love. Love. And I'm saying it again. God is entrusting to you today. Let me say it to you, and let me say it to the kids, because this is true. This is maybe even more true for you, because you're going to come in contact with, you are in contact already with the people around you, and you're going to come in contact with each other today, and you guys might just go home. No, you're not just going to go home, but you eat the same. God is entrusting to you today people, and you have to love them. Jesus is commanding you to love them. Now, the beautiful thing is this, that the task is very difficult. The task is very, very challenging. To love someone is very difficult. To commit to someone is very challenging. To see out that commitment. But Jesus is giving you the strength. Jesus is giving you the strength to do it. So again, center on Jesus. Live for Him. Live for Him. He's the King. He'll see to it that everything unfolds the way it needs to. But what needs to happen on our side is that we commit to Him and live the way that He lived. Walk with Him the way that He walks. Focus our hearts on God and give ourselves to Him and His purposes. Nothing else matters. And then, my friends, we will be this renewed Israel that Jesus is gathering to Himself. To bring God's blessing to bear in the world and to bring His light to shine in every corner of His creation.